Here's what we're going to talk about today. Nick, I know you've known a lot of this just in your time in the classroom, but we'll go through kind of why we're here. Why have we been involved in South Dakota for the last 50 plus years and what's happening? We'll talk through how we're structured, how we're resourced, and then how you can help in the roles that you're in your communities as well. So the first thing we want to do before we get into the specifics of why we exist is we love to share videos that are put together from our national office that are just so well done that tell our story in 30 seconds. So we're going to chat with this little man here and learn about why JA is important. So I'll go ahead and play this video for you now.
Junior achievement is where dreams take flight. We are helping students connect what they learn in school to future work and career success. We are teaching them how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. And we are showing them that starting a business also means changing lives and communities. However, we can't do it alone. Find out how you can help.
I love that one personally because it's showing the progression of the students and what they're learning and their future too, because that's really what we're here for. So the focus that we have some national marketing and some things that are shared across the country and frankly across the world. But we went through a process last summer. We hopped on the EOS or traction structure for the organization. And part of that is really following a framework to discuss what your purpose is, your niche, and just really focusing and honing in on what you do. So we were able to boil down 54 years of impacting students to 4 words. What we do is we prepare students to succeed. We find that our niche is connecting our students to their community through relevant experiences. So it's people like Nick going in, and even though they were a little intimidating, working with those Challenge Center kids to help them learn about what he does in his job and experiences that he's had personally, but also helping connect them to experiences or activities or conversations that really relate with what they're learning in school too. So it's having that outside person come in, talk with the students about their background or what they know from their experiences, but also tying it into things that they're already learning in school and really helping be that outside voice to reemphasize what their teachers and in some cases their parents are sharing as well. What we're here for is, again, connecting students to their community. We really see ourselves as a bridge between the community and schools. And we hear that from our administrators and our superintendents so well, because a lot of times, even if you have kids in school, you don't really get to experience their classroom. You don't get to see what it's like in school. And in some cases too, you don't get to see the status of their buildings, because a lot of times parents send their kids to school, they get to hear from the students what they're doing, but having the chance to go into that school, we have a lot of people come back and say, oh, it's hard to be a teacher. They should make $1 million a year. And they're having some of these experiences in working with our students and understanding what it's like to be with them and really shaping their future. But then they get to bring in that outside perspective too. And one of my favorite things is when we hear from parents or from teachers that the light bulb moment happens within JA, even though they may have already talked about a certain topic in class, or maybe the parents have been talking about something, but they have that outside person come in and they're saying the same thing, but it's that light bulb moment for the students because it's someone they haven't met before, or they don't know. It's that outside influence that really hits that home. So it's been fun to hear in the last year or so, because things were so disrupted because of the pandemic, that our schools were wanting to have JA, even if it was virtually last year, because they wanted that continued connection to the community, to have those people come in and again show the students that they care about them, want them to be successful, and are willing to take their time to really showcase what we have available in South Dakota, and really that we all want our kids to succeed. So it's a big job to be that bridge and be part of that, but we appreciate the help of over 2,500 volunteers who go in and share that message every year with our students. We are starting to talk about what we're doing a little bit differently, because as you may have heard or know, the future of work is changing every 5 minutes, it feels like. So our students are in school, they're learning different skill sets, they're learning different things right now, but what they will need for the workforce may be completely different given the time between them being in school and them going into the workforce. So one of the things that we're starting to focus on is less on skills and more on competencies or mindsets, because we feel like if we can set these students up to be able to make financial decisions, to have entrepreneurial mindsets and innovation and understanding change and teamwork, understanding what it's like to have a career and to be going to work every day and working as a team, and in some of those cases as well, and making decisions that are ethical in their design, we're going to have a really strong workforce in the future. So although we're still teaching skills and we're still teaching things that are useful for them right now and in the future, we feel like we can really set them up for success to have the ability to think through some of these things and also have this mindset toward innovation, toward change, and embracing that. They'll be very, very successful after they leave school to whatever their future might look like. So again, it's very exciting to be able to be with them and to help our volunteers plant those seeds with our students to have those mindsets moving forward.
And just to jump in quick,
Yeah.
and like I said, I've been in about every class, and it really is amazing the progression that these students make. So I know our South Dakota school system's, very, very high caliber, but
Yes.
one thing I thought was interesting when I was meeting with the fifth graders, this was 2 or 3 years ago, I think one of the lessons talked about, how many times do people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up,
Yeah.
right? I think there was 28 kids in the class. I think at least half of them talked about owning their own business. And I thought back, I was a fifth grader, man, I just wanted to be a football player or play in the dirt, right? And just the progression that are, to your point, that we're going to be very well positioned in the workforce. I think that's a very accurate statement, just because kids are further along. And I think, as a society, you want to teach your kids more than what you were taught. And I think this is a good segue into that. So that kind of blew my mind. I remember that specific session that all of them wanted to own. Not only did they want to own a business, they told me what type of business they wanted to own. I thought that was pretty impressive.
I love that. That's awesome. And that's some of the groundwork that you laid with them, Nick. You had the chance to talk through that with them. And we always say you can't be what you can't see. So having these experiences and having these people go in and talk about that is so important. So thank you for sharing that. We really, are blessed in South Dakota with how many small businesses and how many entrepreneurs we have. So if we can cultivate that in the future, I think we'll be really set up for success as well. That's great. Awesome. So part of how we're structured, and again, part of this EOS or traction framework that we're part of, wanted us to identify our core values. And these are all things that we've really been living by for a long time, but we finally put them on paper and we're saying them out loud. So part of what we're here for are these 5 things on the screen, and we really hold our team to these, and we really want our regional champions, our board, and all of our volunteers to help us uphold these, because we think this is what's going to help propel our mission forward. So you can see here, collaboration is not only first in the alphabet, but we think it's really the most important. We can't do this without everyone's support, our volunteers, our business supporters, in terms of funding and allowing people to go into the classroom, all of you for your help in recruiting that assistance and helping spread the word across the state is huge as we go. Optimism has been a big one the last couple of years and how we have moved forward through COVID, but it's really that persistence piece that's really important to me personally. We can't give up, even when things seem difficult or seem like things are changing in a very rapid pace. We have to believe that the future is bright and be persistent as we work toward that positive outcome. I love that you shared, Amy, that your love for philanthropy is working in your new role as well. That's something that we talk about a lot as well. And for us, it's not just a financial donation. It's all the things that are part of impacting our students and our communities and showing that we care about the people that we're working with, especially our students. Relevance is so important too, especially the last few years as we have evolved to meet the needs needs of our community and ensure that we can stay within what the students are needing and wanting, but that it doesn't necessarily look like it did in 2019 or 2012 or, you know, whatever year you were part of it. It may look very different in the future, and we're up for that challenge, which we're excited about. And then respect, as we work with, you know, people across the state, across the country, across the world, we celebrate the value in ourselves and others, and we make sure that everyone feels like they're part of what we're doing and have a seat at the table moving forward as well. So those are our core values. We are within a consortium, really. There's 103 areas like JA of South Dakota who are part of JAUSA. So this is a group that was founded in 1919. Really, JA started in Massachusetts and now has grown to be this entity that has a lot of reach in the United States, but also in more than 100 countries across the world as well. We're headquartered in Colorado Springs, and how that works for us is it's part of a federated structure where we do pay JAUSA to be part of what they are doing across the country. And it also helps us access the curriculum and some of the structure that really gives the relevance and the opportunity to go into the schools. So that's how that works. They don't necessarily tell us how to do everything every day, but they do give us that high quality curriculum and the structure that helps us be successful. They're also helping us with marketing. Like you saw the video we saw today. They do help us with some national funding opportunities and really work to make sure all 103 areas across the country are successful and doing well. For South Dakota specifically, we are unique as we are just one of a handful of areas across the country that has the entire state under our umbrella. There are a lot of areas that are more regionally or metro based, but we do have the franchise rights to all counties in South Dakota. We're currently impacting students in 42 communities, and we like to toot our own horn a little bit as we have consistently been #1 in the nation for volunteer retention. So our volunteers come with us and they stay, which is so awesome. We have someone who's in his 32nd year of volunteering across South Dakota, and that makes such a difference not only for the continuity of our organization, but the experience the students have as well, because the volunteers have been involved for a long time. They're comfortable with what they're doing, and they can really have an awesome impact in the schools. We also have a pretty high market share as well. So of the students that are within our franchise, so all South Dakota counties, we are reaching 35% of our students, typically in the top 3 or 4 in the country in terms of market share. Now, we won't talk about the last couple of years because it got a little unique with volunteer retention and market share, but we are back on track. We're excited to see what those numbers look like moving forward. To be honest with you, it's not about these two things. It's not about volunteer retention. It's not about market share. It's about impacting the students. But we think that these two things help show the consistency of the support around South Dakota and how this state really has embraced the chance to work with our kids and really make sure they're prepared for their future. We do have a state board of directors. We'll talk through who those folks are in a moment. That is the group of people that I report to. I love to tell students that I have 23 bosses, and they think that is just insane. But it's awesome, and they work really well with us and help represent the state. And then we have 4 groups of regional champions as well, and we'll dive into that too. Any questions on the relationship with the national organization? Does that all make sense? So far, so good. Awesome. Okay, so here are the great people that I get to work with and we get to work with as our governing board for JA of South Dakota. These folks, as you can see, represent larger organizations, some smaller organizations, but they really represent the state and really help us with our direction moving forward. They have the fiduciary responsibility of the organization. They have the governance and they help set our strategic direction moving forward. So this group has been really key forever, but all the past couple of years as well, just really helping us stay the track and make sure that we're still impacting kids, even though our business model was greatly upended the last couple of years. So I want to say a thank you to them. We do have 3 of us on today, but we have a team of 10 who works with folks across the state. You can see here we are working on finding a new development director. Jamie Lennon, who was on our team, had kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I told him I would be mad if he didn't take it. So he made a great choice for him. We're trying to find our new friend who will be part of the team. So if you know any good fundraisers, let me know. We'd love to talk with them. But you can see the team here. We are small but mighty, and we get a lot of work done, but it's not without the support of many, many people around the state as well. So if you get emails from any of these folks, this is what they look like. We hope to be back out and with more people as we kind of open up again the next few months and years. But you will see them virtually as well. So within the last year, we made some changes to how we're structured across South Dakota. We are now kind of focusing on all of South Dakota, and rather than kind of the segments that we were broken up into before. So one way that we were able to do that is we did a little bit of a restructure the last year to make really a focus on the state as a whole, all South Dakota students, all South Dakota communities, and some things that we kind of did, some backroom changes or some accounting changes allowed us to impact more students within the dollars that we're raising and the structure that we have. So we're really excited about that. Coming in as you both are, it won't seem any different to you because this is what it's like now. But we've seen a lot of success with this change, and we're excited about what the future looks like because we're already seeing more students impacted within the framework that we've established. And that honestly was the goal, to impact more kids with what we're doing and make sure that they have the chance to learn from our awesome volunteers and programs. So here's how it's structured. Every group is within a region. You can see here based on market share why Sioux Falls and Harrisburg kind of has its own little thing going on. We're with the amount of students that they're reaching. And then we have region 2, 3, and 4. And really why some of these changes were made to group people into these regions was to hopefully increase our market share and have more opportunity to work again with more students and be part of more school districts, not only in growing the number of communities on our list, but also impacting more students within our current communities as well. So again, we're seeing some great things happening already within this format. And it's been really nice because we do have quarterly meetings with these groups, and we're getting these groups together more often. We used to have a one day kind of conference that we would bring everybody from across the state together in Mitchell. And now we get to get people together on a quarterly basis to share ideas, talk through things that are going well, or even share some things that are maybe difficult that we can all help each other with and brainstorm on together. So you'll see kind of the regions called out as we move forward, but that's what that means. And really the goal is within this structure and working together to impact kids, not only with additional touches with JA, but hopefully with some deeper impact programming as we go on as well. So to talk through what it's like to be a champion or part of our regional structure, I won't read all of these to you, but at the core of it is really understanding and articulating our mission and embodying our values. As I noted before, we really want to all work together across the state as we move this forward in the same direction and really focusing on the same core things. We do hope for your help to engage. We have 2 quarterly meetings coming up, one in March, one in July. You should have both been invited to those. So please attend those. There are still opportunities for each community to meet as needed, whether it's planning a special event or coming up with a special opportunity to get volunteers or investors excited. We still want that to happen across the state and be part of that as well. And then we'd love for your help to advocate, to help us find volunteers, help determine kit pickup or new volunteer training, making sure people are on the right path to be successful, helping us open doors to secure resources. And we'll talk through some resources as we go here. And honestly, sometimes it's as easy as being the person that they know from their community to say thank you and appreciate their commitment to us, whether it's dollars or time with volunteering, or even just allowing their staff to go in during the workday to impact kids. Having that local coordination and that local face is super helpful in making sure that we're able to continue in our 42 communities across the state. Any questions on the responsibilities themselves or anything I can clarify?
I have a question. You said
Yes.
you do quarterly meetings in March and July. Is there one coming up? Did we miss it?
No, it is the 22nd or 23rd, I think, of March. And Risa and Janice might be able to look at their calendars a little easier than I can.
I see it now.
Hopefully it's on there.
It's on the 24th.
Yes. And what's nice about those is we meet on Zoom. We share some updates of a state board meeting that will have happened the week prior. So talking about kind of the direction for the state. And then we give every community the chance to have their own breakout room and have the chance to talk on their own about what's happening in your specific community, about how to implement anything we may have shared early on in the call. And then we kind of, our team gets to kind of pop in and out and see everybody at once, which we haven't had the chance to do prior to this structure. So it'll be fun. Good question. Okay, keeping on here, looking at what a typical year looks like, and I know most things aren't typical right now, but as we're planning for the future, this is generally what things look like for us. So we are a June 30 fiscal, so starting in July is kind of our Happy New Year celebration. At that point of the year, we're working on volunteer recruitment and placement, making sure we're set up for the school year to happen. Then Q2 is getting people ready to mobilize into those classrooms. Starting our ethics programs. A lot of times our areas will have bowl-a-thon events in that time frame as well. We think many of them will start coming back. I know a few folks had them in January and February of this year, which we were so excited about. Amy, we heard amazing things about the Aberdeen event, how everybody was so excited to be there. So that put a lot of smiles on our faces to see our people back together. January through March is really class management, making sure people are getting their lessons done across the state, that they're not having any problems, and coordinating with their teacher and just kind of making sure that's happening. Janice and I are in full fund drive mode right now, getting ready for fund drives across the state. We also do some champion and board recruitment during this time as well, kind of getting ready for that end of the year or end of the school year and getting people excited. We also have an event in Sioux Falls at Great Shots, which is a fundraiser for us. And then Q4, which we are coming in real hot into for this fiscal year, is when fund drive is happening pretty significantly across the state. We do have some ethics events in some of our more Sioux Empire or Region 1 and 2 communities. And then we have a couple events, our stock market challenge in Sioux Falls, and then various golf events around the state happening as well. So that's kind of what to expect throughout the year. And sort of the things that we will focus on in those quarterly meetings as well are these topics and kind of leading each community through these things to make sure that we're providing the assistance that we can offer, but also asking for your help as it is appropriate for these items as well. Any questions on what happens throughout the year? Okay. Fabulous. So how are we resourced? We're really resourced in two ways. The first one is funding. We have kind of a statewide, again, accounting where we pool all of our dollars together to impact our students, similar to kind of how everything is pooled together in the education system and it's pumped back out back into our school districts as well. So again, prior to the pandemic, this is how our funds were raised. Fund drive was 67%, special events were 30%, and other is things like investments and other kind of interest payments from there. It's a little bit different now just because we haven't had as many events, but we see a lot of them coming back. And I think we will be very similar to this kind of percentage breakdown in the future. Prior to COVID, we did not receive any government funding. We were very fortunate to receive PPP funding the last couple of years. So we're grateful for that. But historically, we are not government or United Way funding. We actually have a restriction from JAUSA to not become a United Way agency. They kind of see it, and I agree with them, as double dipping in some way because we're working with so many corporations already that we want others to be able to be impacted by United Way funds. There have been some times where United Way has exceeded their goal in some of our communities across the state, and we can apply for some one-time grant funding. So that is allowed. But again, we're not a United Way agency. We get that question a lot. So I want to make sure you all know that. And then Janice is working, and I am as well this year, working with all of our regions to talk about the funding plan for the community. So it might be special events. What are we bringing back? What are we saying, you know, it's been a great run, but we're moving on from some events. We're working to complete fund drive calls and open doors and really make sure that we have the resources we need to impact our students across the state. In the last few years, our budget's been about 1.2, 1.3 million for South Dakota. So again, we're working with all of our communities to help engage investors and funders toward that goal. So more to come on that. And then the other way we're resourced is the other side of our impact is with our volunteers. So we work with our school district partners. We'll start working with them in April and May to make their plan for next year. We are really confident we are kind of back into the in-person implementation after seeing it go so well this year. But we're also looking with them to see how can we be the best partner? What programs would be the most useful for your students? What impacts from the community would they prefer to have? And also allows them to kind of plan for the future to say, you know, in a couple of years, we'd like to add a grade or we'd like to change a program so that we can then work with all of our champions in the board across the state to say, they're asking for 3 more programs in your community. Do you think we can find enough volunteers to do that? And really working together to hopefully fulfill the requests of the districts and really engage more people in part of that. So there were a lot of questions last year about how programming might change as we came back into in-person programming. And honestly, the only change we've seen is growth, which has been awesome. So there will hopefully be more of that as we move forward. And we're now positioned in a way to be able to say yes more often, which has been a really good feeling as well. Okay, so how can you help? Here are the big things. This was in the responsibilities as well. We'd love to have your help as a classroom volunteer or help us find volunteers. We encourage you to invite people to join us in the mission, and we encourage you to help us by investing in the community's future as well. So let's dive into those a little bit more. At a high level, we do have traditional programming that is 3 to 7 visits. Typically, we recruit, as we shared in the snapshot earlier, through May through August is generally our recruitment time. But in some cases, we recruit all year long, depending on what's happening and the needs for our programs. We are a little unique in how we place volunteers because we do ask for people's preferences. Nick, you shared that you've been in the classroom with your own kids in the past, and that's something that we are able to do a little bit differently than some of our peers across the country. But sometimes why it says no guarantees is we may have 3 or 4 parents that want to be in their kids' classrooms, and they might be in the same classroom that year. So sometimes we have to work together to try to have people have the chance to be with their kids one year and then take a break and then be with them the next year, just to make sure that everybody gets a chance as we go through. But we can also help brainstorm with industry connections or programming opportunities based on what people do, maybe in their jobs or their industry. Some people are very intimidated by the financial programs because that's not their industry, but they can come in and talk about work readiness or about entrepreneurship. So really plugging them into what is interesting to them. And then we have JA Ethics also in nearly every community, whether it's in December or in April, where it's a one-time visit where we're sharing with students about ethical decision-making, sharing stories that you may have gone through or things you've had to face to really humanize the thought of ethical decision making and helping them kind of build that muscle in making good choices. So any questions or any comments either on programming itself or our process, anything that way?
No, just to build, I know when I spoke with my 5th grade son's teacher, she's had the same classroom volunteer for 20 years. So, you know, to me, you know, I've heard that from a lot of classroom volunteers that once they understand the content, they feel more comfortable. And that's all well and good. You know, I would just, I want us to be cautious of that because once you know something so well, you don't necessarily have the enthusiasm or the willingness to really dig into the materials. I know when I was one of the first sessions, it was like kindergarten, and man, there's a lot of materials and you're cutting all this stuff out. I knew that material in and out just because I had to. So I know that there's that comfort level, but sometimes when you're not 100% comfortable, you're anxious. I think you're more on top of your game.
Sure, that's a great thing. My husband teaches 3rd grade for JA, and we had 3rd grade all over our dining room table the other night because he was getting ready. And to your point, you really dive in because you want to do a good job and make sure you have the pieces you need and are part of it that way too. So I appreciate that comment. That's important. Amy, any questions or any comments on the volunteering side?
I do not have any questions. Craig actually invited me to go to one of his classes with him, and it was really fun. Just to hear, I think it was a 5th grade classroom.
Okay.
And so it was a fun experience. So I'm excited to get in and do the same.
That's great. Okay, perfect. So thank you. We really like to kind of show what all is out there is, again, we will ask for your help to make sure that we have enough great people to be part of it. And that's part of it too. We can find anybody to be in the classroom, but we don't want just anybody. We want the people, to Nick's point, who will take the time, who really will care about the process and understanding what they're teaching in the classroom, and really be able to bring that outside voice in. So we're a little selective of who we pick, but it's not only our brand, it's also the future of our kids and making sure they're meeting really strong people from our community as well.
Yeah, and just one other personal testimony, and I think a lot of it was due to like my maturity and my age, but I did do a class at a different school probably when I was 25 years old. So I just started at Citibank.
Yep.
And the teacher didn't really help. The teachers the last 5 years have been outstanding, but it could have been just because it was my first time. And but that made it a lot more stressful, because a lot of times when the teachers are there, we're in charge of the classroom from crowd control standpoint, but obviously a teacher has a little bit more power in he or she's tool belt than a volunteer does. So it's been great, but I do remember that one time I'm like, man, this teacher isn't helping. But then it got better. So I just had
that's great.
And
that's good feedback. And that is something, it's required that the teacher or a school employee be in the classroom with our volunteers. That's good for crowd control, but also to know that Johnny and Susie shouldn't be in the same group together because they're not going to focus or whatever that might be. But it's also just a good partnership typically, and we really would strive for this, where they can help, as you're explaining a concept, they can tie it to something else they're working on, or they can remind them, remember when we did this activity, that's, what we're talking about today. So having that good partnership is key. And one of the things that we offer too, because we know as we're in 2,200 different classrooms, it's not always going to be perfect. So we do ask every teacher and every volunteer to fill out a survey at the end. And we really encourage people, if you didn't have a participatory teacher, to let us know so that we can reach out, and it's anonymous, but we can kind of craft our communication in a different way to kind of help, remind them of their role, make sure they're being a good partner. And in some cases, people do put their name in so that we can reach out and really have a specific conversation if necessary. So I appreciate that feedback, Nick. That's something that we really strive, is to have a great relationship between that volunteer and teacher. Perfect. Okay, so here's how you can help us by inviting. We do encourage our champions to help us with that connection to the community. Like I said, having that local face, local voice is really important as we continue to grow and do more things. Coordinate locally for special events, volunteer trainings, recruitment, all those sorts of things. And then really, we're asking for your help to connect us, because a lot of times people aren't super comfortable in asking for money or asking for resources, but they will open the door for our team to do that. So if there's anyone in the community that you think we should know, we would love to get to know them. If you could help us be connected to them, again, whether it's financial or volunteer resource, or just someone who might be a really great communicator or help us build awareness in the community, we'd love for your help to do that. As we noted, we do have 4 meetings per year after our state board meetings, and give that time for community brainstorming as well. And really just try to focus that time on the big picture. So we can spend a lot of time talking about our bowl-a-thon or talking about volunteer recruitment or whatever it looks like, but also taking a step back and reminding ourselves of what all these activities are doing and what the impact is that they all have across the state is really something that we want to remind ourselves on as well. And then lastly, we do ask all of our partners across the state to make an investment every year. And we do really want to focus on the heart of that investment. Some people can give $25,000. Some people can give $2,000. Some people can give $25. And we're excited about all of it. We're really, really grateful for anything that folks are able to do within their financial resources. But we do ask that all of our champions do have the opportunity to make a commitment to JA. We think it's easier to ask if you've already given. And it's really helpful as we plan for the future as well, and ensure that we can have the sustainability of our programming for students. So during the fund drive, we will reach out to everyone across the state and all 4 regions and ask for their support financially, but please know there is no minimum, there's no requirement. We are grateful about every commitment that comes in, regardless of the amount that's on that check or that online donation. So thank you for considering that. Okay, what feedback do you have? What did we miss that you were hoping to learn today, or what questions do you have?